Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, bringing you podcast 109 here at the tavern, presented by Hirotaku.com. Well, patrons, I've finally done it. I have now watched, thanks to Netflix, every single episode of Megaforce and Super Megaforce. I've completed that season. I know it's taken me a while to do so, but I've kind of been dreading watching it for various reasons. And we will be doing a podcast within the next couple of days up to next week, discussing that series in more detail with a panel of other guests. So look forward to that. But the thing is, and I'll give you a quick synopsis of what that video is going to be, Megaforce and Super Megaforce sucked. That's the long and short of it, but again, we'll go into more detail about that. And it just wasn't a very good series. And there were a lot of things that I had to look at and question. I didn't understand what motivated this. Why did the character do that? Just a lot of crazy things that I could not fully explain. And when I think about it a little bit more, I want to talk about today's topic, which I think merits his own discussion outside of overall season review. And that is the character of Orion, the Silver Ranger, who appears pretty much in the last quarter of the Megaforce series. And I want to start this out by saying that I think Orion is possibly the worst Sixth Ranger in the history of Power Rangers. And with that, he is worse than Sam of SPD. He is worse than a ball of light. Which, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't really perturbed by the ball of light thing. That was okay with me, but that's a discussion for another time. But I think Orion is the worst character out there. One, he doesn't have any real character. He's not as helpful or as useful as you may think. And what leads me to today's discussion specifically is, I don't think we can trust Orion. I think that for every episode that he has been on screen, he's been lying to us and the Rangers, and that somehow he's getting away with these lies, and we shouldn't trust him at all. And I know a lot of you out there are like, well, what do you mean we shouldn't trust Orion? Isn't he being truthful about what he said? What's your evidence? Well, I'm glad that you asked that hypothetical question because I have real answers for that today. So we're going to go ahead and discuss specific examples where Orion just made me think that he is not telling the truth, and we have some evidence to go ahead and back that up, or at least I have a hypothesis and I have something to show to you guys to where I don't think that Orion is trustworthy, and I think that he is lying in some instances of the series. So let's talk about who Orion is first. Let's get that out of the way. Orion is a survivor of the planet Andrasia, presumably the last known survivor. And this is going to be important for later discussions, his planet was destroyed by the Armada. He says it in Silver Linings Part 2, and it is said by multiple other characters, particularly the Armada themselves, that his planet was destroyed. He was able to get away from the planet, he was able to go ahead and survive, make his way to Earth, join the Rangers, and become the new Silver Ranger. Pretty fine, standard backstory, alien from another planet, last son of Krypton, that kind of stuff. We've seen this before. But I don't buy his full backstory on how he was able to survive, because there are just a lot of holes in it that don't make a lot of sense and we don't get explanation for. And let's talk about it in detail. First of all, I'm really curious about where the Morpher came from. Now, he states that he worked at a rock quarry, and one day while digging, he found the Morpher and the Silver Ranger key embedded in some sort of crystal. Now, we don't really know where the actual Morphers that the Megaforce Rangers are using came from. All we have is Gosei says, here they are, so we don't have any real point of origin. But I find it odd that Gosei, a character who's been on Earth for thousands of years, supposedly, had these morphers available to him and the keys, but he didn't have the Sixth Ranger morpher, which was on another planet of which we have never heard of in the history of Power Rangers. And what was it doing embedded in crystal, exactly? I mean, are we to infer that Gosei or Zordon dug these keys out of a rock quarry on some other planet? I mean, it seems very suspicious that this key is available on this planet to this one guy who happens to find it. Oh, and by the way, kept it a secret from everybody else that was in the quarry. It's kind of like that guy who finds diamonds when he's mining and hides them from everybody else when he should rightfully, hey, look what I found and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very questionable about the origins of the keys and all that. So and that's a minor point, but it's something to obviously discuss. The second is his survival and how he was able to get off the planet. Now, I also want to point out that when he introduces himself, so I worked in a rock quarry, and we get this flashback. I don't know if this was intentional by the production staff or anything, but I get this whole vibe of 1950s Midwestern coal mining town, like October Sky. That's the kind of feeling I get from this. And I wonder what their level of technology is, because Orion says that he is from a village. And very rarely, I think, do we use the term village anymore. And if we do, it's usually some rural, backwards kind of place. I mean, there are villages in China, but they don't have a lot of technology and all that. So I'm questioning, first off, what's his level of technology? How does his society function exactly? Because we find out that he's in the quarry, which gets attacked by the Armada. I don't know why they're attacking a quarry. Villains seem to be attracted to lots of rocks. And he alone is able to get out of the quarry by himself, run back home, only to find that his village, which is far in the distance and we can't even really see it, is destroyed by the Armada. And then he uses the Ranger key to morph, but it's too late, he says, and there's nothing he can go ahead and really do. So already I'm not buying that he is able to get out of the quarry by himself and nobody else survived, it seemed. He was able to get to his village and morph, but he didn't actually go and engage the village. He didn't try to go in to save people, to do something. He gets there, sees it, and then kind of breaks down. While that's understandable, for a Power Ranger character, you would expect him to go in and actually do something, and there's no indication that he's actually done anything here. So I question his motives there. Then he says he was able to go to a beach and survive. Now, first of all, let's point out that he stated several times that his planet was destroyed, and other people stated that his planet was destroyed. Now, when he says destroyed, I'm assuming he means it's destroyed like Nero destroyed Vulcan, or Tarfkin destroyed Alderaan, annihilate the planet to where it no longer exists. That's what I hear. I'm hearing the end of the world kind of conversation. Yet he's able to survive for at least a year, long enough for him to gain fishing skills and grow his hair out and all that kind of stuff, on the beach by himself. Now, it seems that the Armada, based on what they did here and what they're doing to Earth, is that they don't want to enslave the planet, they want to annihilate it. Now, whether they're strip mining it for its resources or whatever, I'm not sure. But it seems evident that they want to completely obliterate the planet, which fits along with the dialogue of it being destroyed. If it's been a year, why hasn't the Armada destroyed the planet? Why is he still there? And if they're trying to eliminate the inhabitants, why haven't they been able to find Orion at any point? Because Orion is out there, and I would assume that they have advanced technology to scan Fandrasian life signs. Any science fiction show that you see, they have the ability to scan for life forms. Star Trek, Star Wars, Firefly, all that stuff. They have the ability to go ahead and do that. So how come the Armada can't find this one guy living on the beach? Because, he's able to build fire, build a shelter. If anybody came along, it's not like he's on an island in the middle of nowhere and nobody can find him. Not to mention, it seems that patrols go by all the time. So again, how was nobody ever able to find this guy? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. What makes even less sense is how he's able to take down an Armada ship. As we see in his flashback, he takes a makeshift giant slingshot that he's made with a crystal and is able to project it up into the sky to hit the engines of one of the Armada ships and make it crash. This is not David and Goliath. This is not Bart Simpson. This is Orion taking a crystal and taking out a ship, which has been shown to have shields, advanced metals and technology, and make it crash by hitting just one engine, one thruster, whatever. That's where I started questioning it very deeply. It's like, how is he able to do that? That makes no reasonable sense. Not to mention, at this point, he has the morphin and could turn to the Silver Ranger if he was to take, his blaster and shoot it down. That I could buy. That makes sense. But he took a slingshot and a crystal, and that's what took it down. Not buying it. Further, he states that they took the Armada took the pilot and got him out of there, but left the damaged ship. Now, I don't know about you, but if a helicopter goes down somewhere and is able to almost land safely and just the engine is damaged, they're not going to leave it there. They're going to come back for it at some time or try to take it with them as they go. So, are we to believe that the Armada is just going to let one of their ships lay in the middle of nowhere? Now, you can say, hey, they killed everybody else, so they didn't expect anybody to get it. But again, they would have to scan and confirm that nobody's there to go ahead and get the ship. Doesn't make a lot of logical sense. And to stretch his credibility even more, Orion finds the ship and has enough time to repair it, where we have no indication he has any scientific knowledge or engineering skills, and is able to repair it and fly away. I'm sorry, but when I think of coal miners, I don't think of people who can repair engines outside of a lawnmower engine. And that's not a slight to miners out there. I'm just pointing out, I'm not buying it because we haven't established that he has any type of education to suggest that he knows how to go ahead and do it. Then he gets in the ship and flies off, learns how to fly it somehow, and goes directly to Earth. Why? Why is he going to Earth? Did he know the Armada was going there? And if he did, I'd like to know how he found that out. And why does he go to Earth? Why doesn't he go to another planet? Why doesn't he go to Aquitar, KO-35, or anything like that? Marinoid's out there. There are any number of planets he can go to, but he goes directly to Earth? And he doesn't say, I came looking for Power Rangers and stuff. The funny thing is, when he actually gets to Earth, what's the first thing he does? He gets a job. I mean, he doesn't look for Gosei, he doesn't look for Tommy or any other existing Ranger, he doesn't look for help, he doesn't go to the Earth government or anything like that. He goes to get a job at Ernie's Brain Freeze. I'm sorry, but if I was the last survivor and I went to a planet who has Power Rangers, they're still around, and a government that's aware of extraterrestrial life, I would try to make contact, say, hey guys, guess what's happening? Yeah, I know I'm late, the Armada's already here, but we need to do something. I mean, come on, ask for help or something. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm questioning his motives there. He came to Earth. Why Earth? And the first thing he did is get himself a job, didn't try to find the other Rangers or anything like that. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So from that point, I'm like, I just don't believe him. It doesn't add up his story. And yes, we see his story, but that's him retelling it. Because also in his story, he speaks English. And we know when he talks to Tensu that Andresian is a different language. So he's obviously telling this story for their benefit in English. Which means if he's doing that, then that tells me that he's probably lying about other things, making up the story. Plus, the girls love him. And what's better than a macho guy who survived all by himself in the wilderness, right? So I wonder, is he telling it to get the girls' favor, get their favor, to say that, hey, I'm a big, tough macho guy and all that, or is he hiding something else? Let's also point out that he is not present in a couple of episodes, and Love is in the Air is one of them, and he said, I think it's in this episode, he says, oh, I'm sorry, I was out repairing my ship and all that. Really? You have your communicator on you. Gosei has teleporting abilities, then why didn't you come to the battle? How come nobody notified you? I find that very suspicious that you're out repairing your ship and yet nobody was able to get a hold of you. Granted, we didn't see them attempt to do so, but you think Gosei would say, hey Orion, there's a battle. You might want to go ahead and join it. So I find that suspicious as well. Then we take a look at the Wrath. In the episode, they believe they've defeated the Armada and everything, and Orion gets in his ship to go back to Andresia. the planet that was destroyed. That's why I said it was important, because they said that the planet was destroyed. He said it, but he's like, I hope my planet can be like Earth again. Wait, what? Either the planet is destroyed or it's not. You need to make up your mind. So he's already told the Rangers that the planet is destroyed, and yet he says, hey, I'm going to head back to my planet. It's kind of like Superman telling Lois, it's like, yeah, Krypton was destroyed, but I'm going to go back there now and try to rebuild. Which I believe was the plot to Superman Returns, I guess. So yeah, he outright lied. It wasn't destroyed. Or is he going someplace else? Because again, why would the not the action commanders, why would the Armada commanders say your planet is destroyed, and then the Rangers all hear it, and then Orion says, hey, I'm going to head back to my planet and try to rebuild. And rebuild with what? Aren't you the last one? Who else is there? Are you just going to be like the Omega Man? Have your own planet to yourself? Which, oddly enough, seems appealing, but I don't get that. And then he leaves. Again, I'm really confused on that point here. That he said, and others have said his planet's destroyed, and yet his goal in the Wrath is to go back and rebuild something. Did he have a different intention going back? I want to speculate here that he knows that the Armada is not defeated, and he's just getting the hell out of Dodge while he still has the opportunity. Now, of course, he comes back when he says he heard on the radio and everything, which I don't understand radio waves. That should be like a subspace transmitter or something. But he came back, and I would imagine at that point he had, some sort of conscience saying, hey, I'm going to come back, maybe I should stop lying and help the Rangers. And even at the end of the series, he still stays on Earth, no mention of going back to his planet at all. So from those examples, I'd like to think I made a clear and concise point about Orion. I don't believe his backstory on how he found the Morpher, how he was able to survive, how he was able to get off the planet. This time that he's gone and disappears doesn't make any sense. Oh, I almost forgot. Let's talk about Robo Knight for a second. So, Vrak is back. We obviously have to take Orion out of the story because they're using Ghost Sager footage, which is the only reason they still have the Ghost Sager suits. And at the end, Vrak destroys the underwater base and Robo Knight saves Orion to get him out there. The next time we see Orion, he's washed up on the beach and he's like, yeah, I survived because Robo Knight saved me. He gave himself up for me. I'm the only one that lived. Well, based on what we know of his backstory so far, and again, my skepticism, like, really? He's gone. Nobody else has seen him except you, and we have to take your word for it that he is dead and he is gone, right? Okay. But in the final episode, guess who happens to show up in the battle? Robo Knight. So Orion, what was it? Did he die saving you? Or did he walk off somewhere? Because the implication is that Orion lost his life force or whatever, and the Robo Knight sacrificed it to save him, basically like channeling his soul or his spirit or whatever his Katra into Orion, which is why Robo Knight was dead, whatever and stuff. Well, let's also point out that he is a robot, and I find it skeptical that he has a life force in that context. Then again, we don't know what artificial life is particularly like in this universe. Nevertheless, Orion said that he gave himself up to save him, and we see him several episodes later in the final battle, which I love the exchange. Welcome back, old friend, which is the only thing Troy has to having seen him alive. It's like, if one of your friends died and a year later they just come back and knock on your door and say, hey man, I thought you were dead. Nope. That's kind of the reaction there. So we know for a fact he lied about Robo Knight. That Robo Knight gave himself up. That's not what happened. Robo Knight is still alive. And I thought he did something sinister to him, but oh man. So yeah, his backstory, where he is when he's not around, what happened to Robo Knight, and going back to a planet that has been declared as destroyed within the series. So I don't trust him. And that's part of the reason I don't like this character, and I think he is the worst Sixth Ranger we've ever had. He is a liar to the Power Rangers. Because, again, it just doesn't add up, It's kind of like saying, hey, I went to the first Super Bowl and I watched Tom Brady win that game for the Patriots. That's bullshit if somebody ever says that to you, that Tom Brady won Super Bowl I with the Patriots. That's utterly impossible for that to go ahead and happen, and you wouldn't trust that person. But I also do not trust the person that says, yeah, I took down a starship with a slingshot. I don't trust that person at all, and I don't trust Orion. So maybe I'm wrong on these points. Maybe it's speculation, and maybe Orion was not meant to be that way. But I certainly don't trust him, and I don't like him. There are just so many things about this that I'll get into in more depth, but the fact of the matter is, Orion is a liar. That's my stance on it. And I want to know what you guys think. So, do you guys think that Orion is lying? Is he being truthful? Is this all stupid or what? I mean, I want to definitely know your ideas about that. So until next time, just soak up the information that I've given you and come to your own conclusions. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys for listening. Have a good evening, and the tavern is now closed.